What's up, guys? We're just a few days out from UFC 328, Khamzat versus Strickland, and I'm going to give you guys my main and prelim card picks and breakdowns for every fight on this card. I'm actually really excited for this card. It's super stacked. We have Khamzat, Sean, Van, Taira, Volkov, Waldo, Brady, Buckley, Green, Jeremy Stevens, Ateba Gautier, Ozzy Diaz. Woo! We know why we're here. We're all here for Ozzy Diaz. We have Joel Alvarez, Yaroslav Amosov. We have Grant Dawson, Mateusz Rębecki, Jim Miller, Jared Gordon, Roman Kopylov, Marco Tulio. Man, this is a stacked card. I will be watching from the first fight, like every card, because I am a hardcore. But even for a casual fan, I recommend starting from the first fight of this card. But without further ado, let's get into these picks. The first fight on this card, Clayton Carpenter versus Jose Ochoa. Man, this is actually going to be a pretty good fight while it lasts, I think. But I do think it has a pretty clear winner, in my opinion. Start off by breaking it down. Clayton Carpenter is actually pretty good. He had a close fight with Tagir Ulanbekov. Tagir is not the best, in my opinion, but he is low-level ranked worthy. So to have a close fight with him is, I'm not going to say impressive, but it's not a bad look, even though it was a loss. They're both coming off losses right now, too. I believe Jose Ochoa's was to Asu Amabayev. Yeah, it was. And his only other loss in the UFC is to Loner Kavanaugh, which is a great aged loss. So Asu Amabayev and Asu Amabayev and Loner Kavanaugh are Jose Ochoa's only losses in the UFC. Where I'm pretty sure Clayton Carpenter is lost to it was Rafael Fialho and Tagir Ulanbekov. Those aren't the best losses. And Jose Ochoa does have the danger factor, in my opinion. Clayton Carpenter, he can kind of mix it all up. He can box pretty decently. He can bring it to the ground, but I do think the danger factor will win out for Jose Ochoa. So I'll pick Jose Ochoa by a second round KO. Baisangur Susurkaev versus Djorden Santos. I'm going to say it. I've never been too high on Baisangur Susurkaev. I think he could be much better than he is without even needing to change anything about how he fights, improving his skills or anything, just by not showboating. I think Baisangur's issue is that he thinks he's a lot better than he is, which leaves him open to so many shots, so many counters. I think he could honestly have much easier fights if he stopped trying to aura farm in the middle of every fight and just went out there and did what he's supposed to do. Now, Djorden Santos, I don't think he's beating Baisangur Susurkaev. I think the real question here will be, does it make it to a decision or not? And I do think it will. Because Djorden Santos, he lost to Ozzy Diaz. I can't rate you that highly if you've lost to Ozzy Diaz. But I just don't see Baisangur finishing him. I know he's finished all of his fights, but his debut was against who was it? Eric Nolan. And Eric Nolan was winning that fight, in my opinion, before he gassed a little bit and got injured after moving up a weight class on short notice to fight Baisangur. And I know Baisangur took it on short notice as well, but everything was in his favor for that fight, and it wasn't the best look. Then he knocked out Eric McConaughey after a close fight before that, and Eric McConaughey is not that good, in my opinion. But he did just beat Rodolfo Vieira. Was that a few weeks ago? Was that last week? I think it was 2 weeks ago. Yeah, he just beat Rodolfo Vieira. I'm pretty sure he had a competitive decision with Cody Brundage, though, and got KO'd by Ruziboyev. Well, clearly I'm picking Baisangur Susurkaev, but I'll pick him by a second round KO. I'll pick Baisangur by a second round KO, but don't be surprised if it goes to a decision. If it does, I think that should give Baisangur a little bit of a wake-up call, change his style a little bit. All right, next up we got Pat Sabatini versus William Gomis. William Gomis, the traditional long, lanky European black fighter, jabs at range, twos at range. Jab two at range, leg kick, teep up the middle. He has become higher volume as of recent, but I don't know. I just don't see a finishing threat from him. And I think for him specifically in this matchup to beat Pat Sabatini, he has to have some sting on his punches more than he's shown. He has to do something to stop Pat Sabatini from just smothering him. But he has decent takedown defense. He's shown that once he gets taken down, he does kind of stay there a little bit, but I think he started working on that. He has shown better takedown defense and get-ups recently. So actually, I think with his range, I think he could win rounds 1 and 2. No, I see rounds 1 and 2, 29-28 decision for William Gomis. I think he can just piece up Pat Sabatini at range, do more damage on the feet, and delay the takedowns enough to win a damage-based 29-28. So up next, we got my GOAT, Roman Kopylov. I never thought I'd see the day. Roman Kopylov in a 2-fight losing streak. Man. But to be fair, it's not a bad losing streak to be on. It's against Roman Kopylov and RoboCop. Those are 2 pretty good losses to have, especially because I think he won the 3rd round of both of those fights. Once he actually started letting his hands, his kicks, his shots go, he actually did win the 3rd rounds of those fights, in my opinion. The Costa one is arguable, but he clearly won the 3rd round against RoboCop, and we know how good RoboCop is. Marco Tulio is pretty good in his own right, though, but he was just slept out cold by Christian Leroy Duncan, being knocked out for the first time in your career. Especially not only is no, I don't think that's his first loss or his first KO loss, but it was outside the UFC. He's been on a long streak. This is only his 2nd loss as well. This probably, I feel like a KO loss like that, especially right when he was picking up momentum against CLD, I think that might hurt his confidence a little bit. So this might be a fight between 2 fighters lacking confidence, because Roman Kopylov, I think he lost his last 2 fights because he got disencouraged partway through the fights. Or I think at the beginning of the RoboCop fight, it was just a continuation of the Costa fight. He had no momentum. He wasn't confident. Costa fight, the body kicks to the arms, the just investment shots Paulo put in, I think they just slowed him down early, and he didn't pick up until it was too late. I think this is a battle of the confidence. Whichever one of them can come out more confident, I think will win this fight. And I do think Roman Kopylov, even though he's not shown to be too confident of himself in his last 2 fights, in the last round of the RoboCop fight, he did pick it up. I think he'll continue from there in this fight. He'll keep his activity high. I do think technically he's better than Marco Tulio, in my opinion. I think he can land the investment shots. I think he can win. Do I want to say a KO? I may say Roman Kopylov either by KO or 29-28 decision, where he takes the first round and then slows down in the second round but picks it back up in the third. So I'll take a Roman Kopylov 29-28 decision or a second or a third round KO. All right, now we have unk-on-unk violence. Jim Miller versus Djorden. This is actually a pretty good fight, but I think it's a pretty easy one to predict as well. I have Djorden for this one. Not that Jim Miller is washed. I'm not saying this because Jim Miller's washed or something, even though he is a little bit washed. Was his last fight against, is that his Chase Hooper fight? I think. And in that fight, he just kind of let himself get out-grappled. Not let himself get out-grappled, but Chase Hooper hasn't been shown to be the best on the feet recently. And for Jim Miller to beat Djorden, I think he would have to chin him on the feet. Yeah, I think I have Djorden. And Djorden is shown to be pretty good. He was beating Rafa Garcia, who just beat Alexander Hernandez, until Rafa Garcia started picking it up and Djorden started slowing down, which isn't very characteristic of him. He also KO'd Thiago Moises, a fight before that, out cold in the first round. And then, in my opinion, beat Nasrat Haqparast pretty clearly. Beat Mark Madsen before that. He was beating Bobby Green before the headbutt. I think he beat Pimblett. In my opinion, Djorden was on a 6-fight winning streak before the Rafa Garcia fight. And with the Rafa Garcia fight, he had just been in a car accident earlier that week. He came into the fight injured and concussed a little bit from, was he hit by a car or was it a car? I can't remember. But he came into that fight with some sort of injuries from that car accident. So that wasn't him at his best. And you could kind of tell. He was winning that fight until he started slowing down uncharacteristically early. Djorden is actually pretty good. When you look at his resume, if you take into account the robberies he's been through, the headbutt against Bobby Green where he was winning that fight pretty clearly, in my opinion. I know it was only the first round, but I'm taking what I can from that fight. He's actually pretty good. I think he beats Jim Miller at this point in Jim Miller's career. So I'll take Jared Gordon by a lot of 29-28 decisions on this. But, no. Let me take that back. I'll do a Jared Gordon 30-27 for this fight. Yeah, Jared Gordon 30-27. I just think he's going to be too much for Jim Miller. Too crafty. Jim Miller is a lot more aged, has gone through some wars recently. That Bobby Green fight, he had a decently close fight with Damon Jackson until he latched up that gilly on Damon Jackson. Sorry, and then the Chase Hooper fight, he didn't show to be dangerous on the feet against Chase Hooper, so I got to pick Jared Gordon by 30-27. Grant Dawson, Mateusz Rębecki. I have a kind of controversial opinion about this fight. I'm not saying I'm picking this, but there's an underrated chance for a Grant Dawson TKO in this fight. And I know that sounds crazy. Rębecki, super tough. Grant Dawson, pillow-fisted, grappler, not dangerous on the feet, chinny. It should be an obvious pick for a lot of people. And Rębecki is a decent grappler in his own right. But I think from the wars Rębecki has been in, he's always bleeding, always swollen, so much scar tissue. I could see a Grant Dawson TKO by taking him down, elbowing him, ground and pound. He's shown to have decent ground and pound when he throws it. He could open up that scar tissue and get a doctor's stoppage. So that is an underrated pick for this fight. If you want to put plus money on that, I'm pretty sure that will be pretty good odds. But that's not what I'm picking. Unfortunately, I'm picking Mateusz Rębecki by a first-round slime out. Of course, that's what I have to pick. Grant Dawson has shown to have no chin. KO'd by Bobby Green. KO'd by... I mean, it's not that bad of a look to get KO'd by El Loco, Manuel Torres, but has he shown to have a bad chin outside the Bobby Green and Manuel Torres fight? And that's what Manuel Torres does to people when he beats them. And Grant Dawson did pretty clearly beat and finish Jared Gordon. And I just was talking about how good Jared Gordon is. And Rębecki, he's coming off a loss. I think he's coming off 2 losses, actually. Ludovic Klein and Chris Duncan won. And the Ludovic Klein loss, it looked better for him than it actually was because Ludovic Klein got injured at the end of it. So it looked like he took him down, broke Ludovic Klein a little. But Ludovic Klein was injured at the end of that. And he still couldn't finish him. But he beat Orolbai. He lost to Diego Ferreira, though, who Grant Dawson beat pretty handedly and dropped. I think there's 2 Rębeckis. There's Rębecki when he's in a war, and he's able to break his opponent like he did with Orolbai. Didn't break him necessarily, but was able to put enough damage on him that Orolbai couldn't come back. But even then, in the 3rd round, Orolbai was able to... I'm pretty sure, in my opinion, Orolbai won that 3rd round. No, or did he get dropped? I can't remember. But at the end of that round, he was pushing the pace, took him down. But he was able to get back up, and Orolbai shown to be really, really good. Not as good at lightweight, to be fair, but at welterweight, maybe the weight cut was affecting Orolbai, and that's why he got dropped by Rębecki. Because Rębecki hasn't done as good. He's had Fight of the Nights, but that might not help him against Grant Dawson. I just can't trust Grant Dawson's chin. I have to pick Mateusz Rębecki by a first-round slime out, but don't be surprised if I'm wrong. I'm not too heavy on that one. This one, I could see going either way, but I have Mateusz Rębecki by a first-round slime out. I just can't trust Grant Dawson's chin. Give me Rębecki, first-round KO. Up next, we have Joel Alvarez versus Yaroslav Amosov. Now, my opinions on this fight have flopped back and forth, but I think I've landed pretty solidly on Joel Alvarez. I think he should have the speed advantage. He didn't look as fast as I thought he would in his last fight, but he had just moved up for the first time. He should be getting more solidly comfortable in this weight class as time goes on, and it's been a while. I think he should perform better in this fight than he did in the Luque fight. And Luque's shown not to be as washed as we thought he was, and he dominated Luque every round. Kind of should have gotten a finish in that first round because that wasn't an eye poke, but he just dominated Luque outside of that. That's almost more impressive than finishing Luque, in my opinion, because Luque has shown he can be finished, but in that tit-for-tat battle, Luque is still dangerous if you're not getting him out of there. I think I have. And Luque was doing decent against Buckley until he kind of quit on the ground to that ground and pound. He lost to Kevin Holland because he got Darce. But that's how Kevin Holland wins fights. Very fluky. Who else has Luque lost to recently? He beat RDA, lost to Jeff Neal, of course. That was a while ago. Yeah, Luque isn't as washed as people make him seem, and he just beat Kevin Gastelum pretty easily, club and sub. Yaroslav Amosov did sub Neil Magny, but he didn't seem too impressive on the feet in that fight. I think Joel Alvarez will be harder to take down than Neil Magny. Maybe not harder to take down, but harder to finish on the ground, definitely. And I do think on the feet, there's a night and day striking difference. While on the ground, Joel Alvarez is still dangerous. He's throwing up subs pretty unsuccessfully against Arman, but that's Arman. I don't think Yaroslav Amosov is as good pound for pound as Arman. And Joel Alvarez will be stronger up a weight class. Yeah, I have Joel Alvarez. I have him by a first round KO or sub. I could see a club and sub again, but I'll take him by a first round KO. All right. Up next, we have Ateba Gautier versus the sacrifice, Ozzy Diaz. Yeah, they put Ozzy Diaz in front of Ateba Gautier for a first round slime out. That's exactly what they want from him. I won't be too surprised if it's not a first round slime out, maybe a second round, but I think it's happening because Ateba Gautier has shown just because the fight goes longer doesn't mean that it gets safer for you. He's shown that he can maintain his pace. He can slow down and not overextend himself too much to the point where he's gassed by the third round. I think his last fight was just a bad matchup for him. A guy, I forget the guy's name, the Russian guy, super hard to finish. I don't think he's ever been finished. Good recovery. And Ateba Gautier was able to drop him in every round. I think every round, won every round with the knockdowns, with the damage. Even though he was getting outstruck in the tit for tat, he still won. I think Ozzy Diaz is actually a step down and a better stylistic matchup for Ateba Gautier. And I think the UFC knows that, which is why they put him in front of him. Give me Ateba Gautier by a first-round KO. Now, opening up the main card, we have Bobby Green versus Jeremy Stephens. King Green, versus Jeremy Stephens. I think I pretty easily have this by Bobby Green decision. I just think Bobby Green he's shown to be one of the old heads that can keep up his speed, keep up his everything except his durability, but he's never been the most durable. And I think Jeremy Stephens, I just don't think maybe he still has some of the regional scene, BKFC sauce in him, but I just think that he's shown to have slowed down way more than Bobby Green has recently. He had his fight against, what's the guy's name? He just went to war and won. Fight of the night. It starts with the M. Mason Jones, and then he got TKO'd by Mike Perry in BKFC. That's just more damage that he's taken. And I think the Jeremy Stephens KO power narrative can't still be running in the big 2026. And Bobby Green's shown he's never relied on KO power too. And all he's relied on was his slickness and his speed, and he's shown to still have that. Where Jeremy Stephens was relying on that KO power. And I haven't seen that recently, even outside of the UFC. So give me Bobby Green by a decision. Bobby Green by a 30-27 masterclass, maybe 29-28, where he gets dropped or wobbled in one of the rounds. But I don't think he's getting finished. And if he doesn't get finished, give me Bobby Green by a decision. Up next, we have Sean Brady versus Joaquin Buckley. I was actually debating this one for a long time. I'm a big Buckley enjoyer. A huge Buckley fan. I've been on the bandwagon since his debut because he's from the same city as me. Buckley, if you ever want an interview, let me know. I will interview you. I will do you the privilege of being interviewed by me. I'm just joking. Anyway, I'm a big Buckley enjoyer, but I have to take my bias out of this, and I did, and I'm still picking Buckley. Now, I know a lot of people are saying, if Usman did that to Buckley, imagine what Brady would do. But the thing is, Usman wasn't really able to do anything on the ground versus Buckley. Buckley has never been subbed in his career. And I think even though that's because he hasn't fought as many high-level grapplers as Brady, as Usman, but Buckley is I think he's just pretty defensively sound on the ground. and his takedown defense is underrated, especially after that Usman fight. Usman is great at shooting fast, takedown. His takedowns are much quicker than Sean Brady's. His come from out in the open, single legs, double legs. Brady, his double legs, single legs aren't as good. What he's good at is getting you in the clinch and taking you down with his trips. He's great in the clinch. I think it'll be problems for Buckley in the clinch. But Buckley has shown to have very reactive sprawls. And I think Brady, once he gets touched by power, once he feels power, that's when he starts shelling up, shooting double legs, single legs out from the open just to get away from the power. And I think Buckley's shown to defend pretty well against slower takedowns, like against Covington, against Ruziboyev. He defended most of their takedowns pretty easily, explosive sprawls. He's shown to be pretty good on the ground as well. And he defended all of Usman's takedowns in the 5th round and was able to land big shots on him. Even throughout the earlier rounds, he was landing big shots on Usman that I just don't think Brady will be able to take without getting wobbled, or at least it messing with him. Because I know people were saying Leon landed on him and it didn't mess him. It was just, it just freaks. But that's because Leon is very technical. That plays into Sean Brady's game. If you're throwing big bombs, big hooks, like look at the shots Bilal was able to TKO him with. They were big hooks around the guard. They weren't anything super powerful, but they were just big thudding hooks that were able to wobble him around, were able to give him some adversity, and that's when he started to quit. And I don't like saying that fighters quit, but in that Bilal fight, he really did. He wasn't out on his feet. He wasn't dropped even at any point. He could have kept going. He just decided to shell up because he didn't like getting hit with those big bombs. And same with the Morales fight, but in that fight, he did quit on the feet before he even got TKO'd. He got hit with some big bombs. Then he stopped throwing back. He was throwing jabs, but he was trying to shoot big, plotty takedowns that just had no chance of working because he was already stunned on the feet. He was already kind of mentally quitting. I'm not going to call it quitting, but he was mentally not thinking straight. And he was kind of reactive. And for Brady, being reactive is not the style he needs. And I can see Buckley throwing big bombs, clipping him early like he was clipping Usman earlier in the rounds. But Usman was able to stay controlled and keep shooting for those takedowns. And I just don't think Brady will be able to do that. Now, he could, however, take down Buckley and finish him. And I do think in the rounds where he takes down Buckley, I do think Buckley will be able to keep Buckley there. But even if Buckley's not able to finish him, I can just see him winning a damage-based decision where he can keep it on the feet for a minute or two, but the damage and shots that he lands are just more important, more significant than anything Brady's able to do on the ground, and Brady not being able to finish him. So I do see Buckley either by a 29-28 decision, which I know I'm picking a lot, or more likely, in my opinion, Buckley by a 2nd round TKO. So I'll be picking Buckley, round 2 TKO. I think that's the most likely. All right, we have Volkov versus Waldo, Cortes, Acosta. Alexander Volkov is going to be way bigger than Waldo in this fight, but we don't care. We will be KOing Alexander Volkov in the 2nd round. Woo! I think Alexander Volkov is a very hard fight for Waldo, and I'm actually 50-50 on this fight in all seriousness, but I do think ever since this Pavlovich fight, Waldo has become more of a finisher. Before the Pavlovich fight, you'll watch, he was not chasing the finish. He was trying to win a tit-for-tat decision. In my opinion, the Pavlovich fight was a 29-28 loss for him. And I think after that, I think he's flipped a switch where he's chasing finishes more. He's throwing more heats into his shots. I think that's exactly what he has to do against Volkov. Volkov has shown to be really good against people who won't finish him. I know he fought Pavlovich, but in that fight, Pavlovich was not trying to finish him in those first 2 rounds. He was trying to win a decision, a tit-for-tat decision, until that 3rd round, which in my opinion, I think Pavlovich won if I'm remembering right. I just watched the fight yesterday, rewatched it. I'm pretty sure Pavlovich won that 3rd round, but that was because Pavlovich actually started trying to take his head off, trying to finish him in that last round. I think Volkov has a tendency of coasting a little bit when he's outpointing someone, and that can work until it doesn't, like the Derek Lewis fight. I know people say it was a big fluke. In my opinion, yeah, it was a fluke. However, that's because of Volkov's tendency to coast. He was coasting. He was winning. and he let himself get comfortable. He stayed right in Derek Lewis's range with his hands down, his chin a little up in the air, getting comfortable. Only a few seconds left in the fight, and Derek Lewis bombed him and put him out cold. I think Waldo can do something similar, where he will be getting outpointed in that first round, but Waldo might be the best counter striker that Volkov's fought recently. And I do think that Waldo will be able to pull counter. I think Waldo will be able to pull counter a shot similar to how he did to Gauthier. Not, like they're similar styles, but a similar thing to that, where he'll be able to slip a shot, pull counter a shot, something like that. Kind of similar to what Derek Lewis did. Volkov had just thrown a punch, and Lewis threw a big overhand over the top and KO'd him. So that's what I see happening. Give me Waldo by a second round TKO. But I won't be mad if Volkov wins. I am also a Volkov fan. All right. Now we have Joshua Van versus Tatsuro Taira. This is an easy pick for me. I'm sorry. This has a Joshua Van TKO written all over it. Taira might have the worst head movement. He has patchy mixed head movement. He has some of the worst head movement I've seen, especially for a flyweight. He does not move his head. It gets to the point, like in the Royval fight, I was feeling bad for Taira. I should never feel bad for a fighter. I was feeling bad for Taira. I feel bad for Taira in all of his fights where he's striking on the feet and getting hit, because he kind of just stands there, lets his head get flung back. I don't know. His head gets popped back every time he's in a striking match that he's not getting the better of, because he doesn't move his head out of the way. And Joshua Van has great takedown defense. He has great reactive sprawls, and he beat Ray Tsuruya, where I'm pretty sure Tsuruya shot like 25 takedowns on him and only got 4 that Van got right back up from. And Ray is a great grappler with a similar grappling style to Taira. Not as good on the ground, but wrestling-wise, he might even be a better wrestler, have better takedowns than Taira. I don't think that's too crazy to say. Now, Taira is great. Taira is one of the better wrestlers in the UFC. I'd even say grapplers. I'd even say a top 5 grappler in the UFC. His back-taking system, his finishes, he's just so creative on the ground. But I just don't see him getting Van there. He very well could, and he could finish Van on the ground once he gets there, just from an experience difference. But Van has great takedowns, a low center of gravity, has great takedown defense, a low center of gravity. His striking can make you pay much more than a Royval can. If Van pull counters you, slips, dips, and rips, and lands shots all over you, he can actually finish you. Royval can too, but Royval is more of a cardio volume merchant. Van can actually put sting on his shots now. Unlike earlier in his career, he wasn't able to as much, but recently he's put sting on his shots. He can finish you. And I think if he lands as much on Taira as someone like Royval did, or even not as much, I think he can finish Taira. And I just see the danger on the feet being too much and Van being able to keep it standing for long enough to land those shots. And his body shots, those investment shots, Royval wasn't landing body shots on Taira. Van can land those body shots, those investment shots, and slow down Taira, making the grappling harder, especially a lower center of gravity body shots that allows him to get underhooks pretty easily against Taira's takedowns. And Taira is great in the clinch with those clinch trips, takedowns. Yeah, I think I just have Van. I have Van. I think this is a pretty easy one to pick, in my opinion. Now, this is going to be one of those fights where whoever wins, it will have been an easy pick to pick them. But I just see Van winning, because whoever wins is going to win it in their way. And I think they're going to win it pretty easily. And I just see that being Van. So give me Joshua Van by a 3rd round TKO. And the final fight on the card, Khamzat Chimaev versus Sean Strickland. Man, I'm hyped for this fight. Now, I am scared it's going to be one of those fights like the Cap versus Mukaya fight, where there's a lot of trash talk, a lot of buildup, and then it's a boring fight where nothing happens. But I'm still hyped nonetheless. Who am I going to pick? I had an idea going into this video who I was going to pick. But there's a lot of things that could determine this. I think I'll have to pick Khamzat Chimaev by by a decision, I think. However, and I don't mean to be a fence sitter and say, oh, by decision or submission, but I do think he could submit Sean early. We'll know in the first round whether or not it'll be a decision or a submission by Chimaev, because I think Sean may make it easier for him to get subbed than DDP did, because DDP, once he was taken down, he did not take the risk to get back up. He was okay with letting Chimaev stay on top. While he was trying to get up, he was not giving up his back, doing anything really to risk getting subbed to get up. Sean will risk that. In his fight against Abus took him down in the first round. I know first round Abus is a legendary fighter, but Abus did take him down, and he got his back while Sean was getting up. Now, Sean is really good at get-ups. Khamzat Chimaev himself has even said that. He's on record saying before the DDP fight that he thinks DDP will be a better fight for him than Sean. Easier to grapple, at least, because DDP on the ground is very simple, where Sean is strong and has good get-ups. And everyone Sean's fought has said he's a lot stronger than he looks, and DDP has said that Strickland is stronger than Chimaev. No one has been able to hold Sean down in his entire stint at middleweight. However, he's never fought a grappler like Chimaev. I think Chimaev will be able to hold him down. Yeah, I think Chimaev will be able to but I'm saying I think he will. If he doesn't, I do see Sean winning the fight. I know that's kind of obvious, but I think what allowed Chimaev to not gas against Dricus, and even then, he was gassed in that 5th round. That's why Dricus was able to get up, why Dricus was able to sting him with some really, really good shots. That's why Dricus was able to get his back, had a neck crank, not a good one at all. Khamzat was able to reverse position, but that's why Dricus was able to win that 5th round. Khamzat was gassed, and that was in no way a high-paced fight. Khamzat would take him down on the first takedown attempt in every round, not even strike that much, not throw too much volume, pitter-patter shots on the ground, not even have to work that hard to keep Dricus down. And Khamzat was gassed in that 5th round. Oh, if Sean is able to get up, I think even if he's able to get up just once per round, that's a lot more work for Chimaev. That's a lot more work for Chimaev. He'll have to get up and strike again, find the range, shoot another takedown. And Khamzat's takedowns are very explosive base. He shoots so low, so quickly. I think I have to pick Khamzat. He's clearly the right pick for this fight, but I think Sean has an underrated chance at this. I think what I see happening, I see Khamzat winning pretty dominantly, but the fight ends with Sean Strickland getting back up, walking down Khamzat a little bit, yelling in his face, yeah, doing his usual, and it's just a good look for him. People are going to say, I think people are going to apply the Nate Diaz, Joe Rogan rules to this fight, and at the end of the round, or at the end of the fight, say, if this had gone blank, so-and-so more rounds, Sean would have won it. But I think Khamzat will win this fight. Now, here's something else that has me a little hesitant on picking Khamzat. Khamzat shared this sparring footage of him and Sean, and it looks pretty clearly like the best footage he could come up with was him whiffing a couple shots, maybe landing one shot. And I can only reason I can think of, yes, they're lighter sparring right now, but still, only reason I can think of why he would only share this footage would be because there's no great footage besides, like Sean said, which a lot of people don't understand, by the way. Sean admitted, yes, Khamzat did, sub me a couple times, but that was in drills. I'm just guessing a lot of people don't train, because when you train, you have drills where people start on your back, and it's meant for them to basically sub you so you can try to get out of that position. They're put in the best position, both hooks in, hands already nearly at the rear naked choke. So, of course, Khamzat subbed him a couple times in that. Khamzat's a great grappler, but the stories are being told that Khamzat did quit, didn't want to keep doing rounds with Sean when they did full rounds where they didn't start on the ground with Khamzat on his back. And Khamzat has only ever said that he subbed him in those rounds as well, where he started on his back. So, I don't know. That has me a little bit hesitant, because in this In this footage, Khamzat's not shooting a takedown. Only reason I could think for that would be because he couldn't hold Sean down. He didn't want to waste the energy. So that's making me a little hesitant. And I don't know why Sean would have asked for this fight if he was sure that Khamzat would just sub him. If Khamzat just easily subbed him. I don't know. I think Khamzat's confident in himself in this fight too. And I think that's because he subbed him in those drills. But Sean has to have some reason to have wanted this fight. And I think this is it. I think he does believe he'll be able to break Khamzat because he's done it in training before. But I'm still going to have to pick Khamzat Chimaev to win this fight by a decision. I'll say 49-48 decision. Yeah, 49-48 decision. And those are my full card picks for UFC 328, Khamzat versus Sean. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below and come back to my post-fight reaction, immediate reaction video after the fights on Saturday, and let me know how I did. I'll be going 100% on this fight card. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Remember, like, subscribe, post notifications. Thank you all for watching. Peace.